There is a certain type of person many of us recognize immediately. They are not weak and they are not pessimistic. They are simply constantly worried. They worry about everything, from the smallest details to the most catastrophic scenarios imaginable. A minor scratch on the skin becomes cancer in their mind. A public door handle becomes a source of death. A market fluctuation becomes the end of their future, and a rumor becomes lifelong disgrace. This is not because they are foolish, it is because their nervous system is permanently stuck in high alert mode. For people like this, anxiety is not a personality flaw, it is a survival strategy learned long ago. They are often advised gently but firmly to seek therapy, and when they do, something surprising begins to happen. They start to realize that most of their fears are not accurate predictions of reality, but echoes of unhealed emotional wounds. The external world, they learn, is usually far less dangerous than the internal one. A scratch is just a scratch. There is no invisible apocalypse waiting around the corner. Most people are not plotting humiliation. The human body is more resilient than they believed. And life, for the most part, is not a battlefield. It is surprisingly neutral, even indifferent. One of the most important lessons therapy teaches is this: learn to distinguish between your inner world and the outer world. Inside, there may be terror, painful memories, panic, and catastrophic thinking. Outside, things are often far less extreme. When people go deeper into this work, they begin to understand why these two worlds feel so disconnected. Many grew up in environments that were emotionally unsafe, marked by abandonment, control, shame, unpredictability, or chronic loneliness. And when a child grows up in a world where everything can collapse at any moment, the brain learns a dangerous rule: life is never safe. So even when adulthood brings more stability, the nervous system doesn't update. It keeps reacting as if the past is still happening. It does not live in the present. It lives in memory. The purpose of therapy is not to promise that everything will be fine. Its real purpose is far more radical, to help you realize that the worst thing you feared has already happened, and you survived it. You have already been through your personal hell, which means the present, however difficult, is not as hopeless as your mind insists. But life has a cruel habit. Just when you begin to calm your anxiety, just when you stop obsessing over danger, just when you finally dare to live honestly, real disaster strikes. A serious diagnosis, a genuine epidemic, a real betrayal, attack, or humiliation. And at that moment, many people collapse into bitterness and say, "See, I was right. Life really is hell." Therapy was just wishful thinking. This is not the failure of emotional maturity. This is the moment where emotional maturity truly begins. Therapy never promised that tragedy would never happen. No honest discipline could. What it offers instead is something much more powerful: the ability to suffer without turning that suffering into self-destruction. Given the same crisis, some people collapse entirely, while others hurt deeply, yet remain standing. The difference is not the event itself. The difference is the inner dialogue running during the crisis. Those with a fragile inner world often tell themselves, "This is the end. There is no way out." This thought is not random. It is the reflex of a child who was never soothed when everything fell apart. And when disaster strikes early in life, the brain learns to expect total annihilation every time pain appears. But reality is more nuanced. Not every crisis is the end of everything. Not every ending is total destruction. And not every pain requires despair layered on top. Some people were fortunate enough to have a calming adult in childhood. When something broke, they were held and told, "It's okay." And together they explored options, repairing it, replacing it, adapting. And that voice stays with them into adulthood. In moments of disaster, it whispers, "This hurts, but it isn't over. Something has been lost, but not everything. And even if it can't be fixed, life can still continue." Others never had that voice, and in crisis they suffer twice, once from the event itself, and again from a brutal inner critic that says, "You deserve this. This is all your fault. You are a mistake." This second layer of suffering is far more dangerous than the first. Not everyone who goes bankrupt wants to die. Not everyone who divorces hates themselves. And not everyone who becomes ill feels they deserve it. Those who collapse the deepest often carry vast reserves of shame and self-loathing long before the crisis arrives. Emotional maturity does not mean denying mistakes. It means understanding something essential. You can do something wrong without being a wrong person. You can fail without losing your worth, and you can hurt others and still possess parts that are lovable and redeemable. Even if everyone turns away, one truth remains. You were once a child who was loved, and that part of you never disappeared. The difference between a good life and a bad life does not lie solely in what happens. It lies in the interpretation layered onto events. There are people facing prison, terminal illness, or death itself who do not add self-hatred, panic, or moral condemnation to their suffering. They hurt, but they do not beat themselves. That is emotional wisdom. When therapy works, it helps rebuild an internal voice that sounds like a gentle, grounded adult. One that can say, "And this does not mean you are worthless. This does not erase everything good that ever existed. And even if this ends, it can end with dignity. Even death, the mind's greatest fear, does not have to be a psychological catastrophe. Billions have passed through it, and many have done so with surprising calm." Emotional maturity is the ability to face catastrophe without catastrophizing, to endure pain without self-abandonment, even when the world is shaking. The good news is that you don't have to wait for the end of the world to learn this. With proper support, therapy, and a compassionate philosophy of life, you can move into the group of people who know how to suffer without destroying themselves. People who can hold themselves in crisis the way a kind parent holds a frightened child, and whisper softly, "It's okay. I'm still here, and I will keep going."